Welcome back, future expats. You got Mark and Meredith here. We were just talking about if we were going to allow ourselves to be explicit on this podcast. Maybe not this episode, but I told him that we were definitely going to be
sharing.
I mean, we're going to be ourselves, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, we are, and that might mean dropping the F-bomb once in a while.
Yeah, so
especially when you talk about moving abroad, people.
Yeah, that comes with its own series of consequences, as will be proven through these podcasts. Okay.
Anyway, welcome back. We are on episode 2. We are really excited to expand a little bit on something that we talked about and touched on in our first episode.
Yeah.
Which was, kind of the big deal here, which is how do you know how long you should give yourself to make a clear decision? If you're on the fence about moving anywhere, much less to Portugal, but if you're trying to move anywhere other than the United States, if you're moving, abroad or wherever else, that it's a huge decision, and I think people might be thinking, well, how long do I give myself? Like, how long do I consider it? How long did you consider it? How did you go back and forth? What basically brought us here? And we did talk about this in the first episode, like this much of it. And so we wanted, as we have intended from day one on this podcast, and for Portugal Junkies in general, that we want to make sure that we are talking about the things that people actually care about.
Want to hear.
And
need to hear.
And that
maybe
can be
you don't want to hear it, but
good, bad, and ugly.
Going to.
That's right. About this kind of decision. So anyway, we were gonna, you might be sitting there thinking, like, how long should it take me to decide to move? How long should I give myself? Wondering how I'm gonna know if I'm ready. And so hopefully this podcast will help you with that.
At least, give you maybe some other thoughts that you haven't thought about.
Yeah. All right, so babe, how long did it take us to actually decide to take action and start the process of moving over here to Portugal from Charlotte?
Yeah, I'm going to say it was at least or about a year, specifically 1 year. So from June-ish 2022, because Mum came over.
Yes.
And that was in June 22. And then we pulled the plug on everything going in June-ish of 23.
Yeah, because June of 2022, she had come to visit us in Charlotte, and we were going up to my parents' house at Lake Gaston.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember how that conversation
started. I don't know how it came up, but it did.
But all I know is that I used the 4-hour trip to start Googling. I think I actually put in most affordable places to live in Europe.
Yeah.
Something like that, because Europe was like our
best
our
places
first
to retire,
option.
or
even something like that.
This is never a retirement. Let me just
we're not
make
retired.
that clear.
I kind of wish we were.
Yeah, I kind of wish I'd won the lottery, but still working on that one.
I was Googling it in the car. And then, I think the top 3. Well, I remember 2. I remember the top
Portugal and
2.
Costa Rica.
Yes, Portugal and Costa Rica were in the top 3. I can't remember what the third one was.
No.
And so I was like, "Ooh, Portugal!" And so I started Googling Portugal as a destination for expats, and it was like it blew up. I was not even so aware of how popular Portugal had become in the last few years. I had never been here. You had never been here, right? And
one business trip, but that was in and out of an airport.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. So basically, it was like I was finding all of this content about how amazing it is and how it's like the undiscovered destination that's affordable for expats. So that's what started it. And then what? We decided to go.
Oh yeah, we came over.
Not to move. We decided to scout.
Yeah, it's so important, and I think you've got to do it your own way, but the way in which we decided to do it was to go and have a look and see if it was everything that what was printed on paper city was.
Real life.
Yeah, and could we live it? And could we get around? Could we get in touch with the language? Could we... all sorts of different could we's.
I also think that there's this is the Enneagram 4 in me, but a place will tell you emotionally for me. I can tell if a place is somewhere that I could live. I am not always 100% on that, but I do believe that there's something in your gut when you're in a place that is a connection to a place or not. And I think that that is an important thing. So I feel like if you are considering moving, I don't think you should ever do it blindly. I think you should definitely. There's people who do this all the time. They pick up and they move somewhere new, and that's fine. And I'm not judging at all.
That's a choice thing.
But I do believe that for most, we need to go to that place and really feel that place. And I feel like being in the heart of that place will tell you if you're connected to it or not. And that sounds so hippie, but I am kind of hippie, so I
can be a bit out there sometimes.
I own that. But anyway, so we did go scouting.
Yes.
We went scouting, so we were Googling in June.
I think that's another important thing is, even if you think you're set on one particular place, definitely go there, obviously, but open it up, be open to other things that are different to it, that are bigger than it, that are smaller than it, that are in a different destination to it. When we came over, it was Porto, Aveiro, Lisbon, Sintra. And they were all places of consideration, but Porto was definitely the one that was the tick on far many more things than others.
Yes.
And that just, we wanted to make sure that Portugal was the right place, and then you start drilling down and make sure that a specific place is the right place.
Yeah. And most of you can only do it, it's always going to be a risk, right? Where you choose. You could get there and it not be your place, and that's fine, but I feel like you definitely need to go and visit and make sure that the core things that are important to you exist. So anyway, we Googled in June in the car. We booked a trip 5 or 6 weeks later. We came over here in August 2022, and literally, he just named them all. We flew into Lisbon, we came up to Porto, Aveiro, we went to Sintra, and we loved, oh my gosh, what did we love? We loved the weather. We loved the affordability, especially of food and drink, right? We had not even gotten to, can we really afford apartments, right? So that wasn't even there, but just the day-to-day life stuff
could you live in it?
Was super affordable. And I'm telling you, Porto is a very special place. So we really felt connected to it. I felt like Lisbon was way too big, and I still do.
A bit too much.
And some of the others were too small. So that's kind of how we landed on Porto. But I go back to, we scouted, right? We wanted to see this place. But then what? We come home. Mm-hmm. So we're in August 2022. And you're on a high. You're on a high. You're like, yes, I want to live there. I want to do it. How do we do it? And
that's when you really have to start thinking, not only that I want to do it, but how can I do it? How do we as a team, as a family, make it happen from wanting to it happening?
Yes. And a lot of people, that's where they stay.
Yeah.
It's the dream, it's the wanting, it's the excitement, and I think for Americans specifically, there is a group of us who dream of living in Europe. It's this thing that seems like romantic and old world, and it's things that we don't know. And so I think we're intrigued by those things, and we want to experience those, that group of us anyway. And so here's the thing, you get home, you have this amazing trip, you're like, God, wouldn't it be amazing to live in a place like that for a while? And you ride that for a little while, and I feel like we did. We absolutely rode that, like, this is what we want to do.
We could not consume enough information.
We could not.
Enough YouTube, enough podcast, enough...
We could not.
Wherever you could find anything to do with Porto specifically, and Portugal generally,
Yes.
It was, okay, we need to know about this, we need to know about that. One thing I do wish we'd done would be to start learning the language sooner.
Earlier.
So that's a definite
Yes.
pro tip. But
So
anyway.
then what happens? You get discouraged. I can tell you over the course of from August to June, we went back and forth on whether or not this was actually going to happen easily 6 or 7 times. And
yeah, there were iterations of, should we do this? If we didn't do this, what could we do? Because we knew we wanted to do something to change up our lives. And that was important to us. That was our.
We were definitely ready for a
why.
change.
Yeah, that was our why. We wanted to change things up.
What did we consider other than
we considered obviously Costa Rica, but we also considered, and I don't know where you got this idea, quotes, of a year-long road trip.
That was
in
not
the US.
my idea.
It was definitely out of your mouth.
Okay,
And
I am the road trip hater. That was not my
You
idea.
go more than 2 hours in a car, and it's
And
just
I'm miserable.
hell for the other people.
But we did, Costa Rica, we did consider, that wouldn't have been much different though. You're still moving to a completely different country, have to get a visa, blah, 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 blah. But for me, the difference between what we read about Portugal and Costa Rica is the humidity and heat, and I just don't know if I could live there. So that kind of was on the back burner. The road trip was, like, maybe we just want an adventure for a little while. Maybe we should rent our house and like get an RV
Keep our
and
jobs.
see the world. He hasn't lived in the United States like I have, and I certainly haven't seen all that I want to of the States. So it was like through the lens of, could we go around the States for, a year and stay in each place for a month at a time?
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea for me. But
Other things that we considered were Puerto Rico, because that would be dead simple.
I love Puerto Rico
That would be
though.
dead simple.
Dead simple, why though?
Because it's America. It's still an American territory.
Yeah, but I think that the
You
big
wouldn't
thing
need
with that
visas
was
for
the
that.
dog.
Yeah, but you wouldn't need visas. So yeah, there's a stumbling block there. Another easy one would have been, I'm from England, we'll go to England. We'll stay in England for...
That was probably the first thing we considered. Was like, well, if we want to change.
Again, I've lived there, I know it, I'm not going to say like the back of my hand, but I'm pretty much. And I wanted more of an adventure than that would give us. So there were so many different considerations that led us along a path, a windy path.
Yeah, up and down path.
And
emotional roller coaster about it.
Here we are.
But that was what that year looked like. So this is what I want people to understand, is that this was not something where you go, I think I'm going to move to Europe and let's go see it. And yeah, we love it. And then we just started the process. Like, it was an emotional journey for us for many, many, many reasons. And some of the hurdles, besides family, right? It's all, if I forget to say it out loud every time, family and leaving family and being away from family was a huge thing for me. Mark has already done this with his family, right? This was going to be a new thing, living so far from mine. So if I don't say that every time, that is number one. It was always a hurdle and a concern. It's not that I don't want to ever be away, but it's just a different type of life for me, because I've been in the same state as my family my whole life.
Yeah.
Number one is money. Come on, like you're sitting there going, can we do this?
Yeah.
Like, can we actually figure out the finances of this?
How much do we have? How much do we need? How much more can we make? How much are we going to spend?
What would make us comfortable in terms of what we needed to save before we even left the country? Could we rent our house? Would we keep our jobs? If we kept our jobs, would it be remote? It be a remote option at all?
Yeah.
All of these things, obviously, huge. I mean, it's the number one hurdle for most people, right? Can I afford to do this? And then once I get there, can we afford to live?
Yeah, and I think that along with can I afford is, do I fit a visa bracket? Do I fit into a D2, a D8, a D7?
Which we will go over.
We'll go into in a different episodes.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
Like, can we qualify for
Yeah,
any kind of visa?
can we physically do it
Yeah.
on paper? And if that's got to be a first big starting point.
Yeah.
Because
like
if you don't
it's even
fit
possible.
something, be it that you do in some ways but you don't in others, can you manipulate that to make it work or not? Or it's just a very overwhelming process. So this is never ever going to be for the faint of heart. It's a very overwhelming process.
Well, overwhelming is the right word, because I feel like...
But at each point, I always felt that, yes, it was overwhelming for one or other of us, and the other one brought the other one back down to earth or up out of the dumps.
Yeah.
Whichever way it was
We're
scaled.
good at that.
Yeah, and I think we're very lucky. And again, that just worked for us.
Yeah, I think when you talk about all of these hurdles, right? We even talked about, well, what if we go and one of us hates it when we get there?
Right.
Like, those are things that we definitely had to consider, because it's such a change for both of us. He could love it and I could hate it. I could love it and he could hate every minute.
But we always had to have a pact.
We did. We had a pact from the beginning.
If one person didn't like it,
then we would do something about it and we would leave.
Simple.
And I think that's just basics 101 of relationships and marriage. But I think that the key word to come back here is every single thing we've talked about: language, money, dog, getting the dog here. We'll talk about that one in an entire episode.
That's one of those.
How do we finance this? How do we live once we get here? All of that, it brings so much overwhelm. It can.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that this is where some people stay, right?
Yeah.
You're either going to decide you want it more and push through those hurdles and like have this mindset of we will find a way.
Yep.
Or you stick where you are, which is fine because that's right for some people. But there is a stress hardiness, I believe, that has to be a part of this process to push through the overwhelm and the hurdles and get you where you really want to be.
Mm-hmm.
We can apply that to all the hurdles we just talked about. We can definitely apply that to the visa process alone. And we're going to talk in detail about the visa process and the requirements and all of that in future episodes, because I think that's what a lot of people need to understand and want to understand. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm on board, it's the how, right? Now it's the how.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest thing that one would have to decide when you're at this point, if you're listening and you're like, I would really love to move one day and I would really love to do this, is to A, understand that it's not for the faint of heart, mm-hmm. but B, that it is 100% worth it and possible.
Yeah.
Every time we hit a hurdle, I feel like I had these roller coasters. It was like I hit a hurdle and I'd be like, well, there goes our plan. Now I'm frustrated. Now I'm pissed off. Now I'm like sad, and I'm having, because I am an Enneagram 4. I feel things much deeper than he does.
Yeah.
And I would also go like, well, maybe this is the universe telling us not to do it. Like, I literally would have these moments, and then I would take a day and I'd be like, you know what? It's like other people have done this.
Resilience.
Right. It's resilience, and it's pushing through and finding the right resources and understanding that people have gone before you and they have accomplished this.
Yeah.
So
we're not the first to have done it.
We're not going to be the last, hopefully. And so it's one of those, I beg you to keep the faith, or at least also understand what you're going to be up against when you start this process, if you do. But also have the faith that, I'm also one of those people who say, I don't think that the universe puts things in your heart, like these desires in you, if it's not going to help you facilitate them. Right. And that's just kind of, again, hippie of me. But I do believe that. Like, if there's a desire within you to do something like this, there is a way to accomplish it. It may take longer than others. it may take a shorter time than most people for you because of how you make decisions and your readiness. But
even just
it's possible.
Just comparing it, even if you weren't moving to a different country, you were moving to a different state within the US. Think about how overwhelming that process is of just moving home, maybe for a job or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But you're moving from, for instance, North Carolina to
New
South
Jersey.
Carolina. 50 miles away, and it's a different state, it's different tax, it's different. The whole buying and selling and moving and things like that in itself is a stressful thing to do. But, as a realtor, I see that every time that clients did that, whether they were buying, selling, or both.
You're uprooting your life either way.
And if you then compound that one chunk of stress with then an ocean away, or maybe 2 or 3 different oceans
and a different
away,
language, and a different culture, and a visa,
and all sorts. It's just a different scale of having to be prepared for things that you don't even know that you're going to have to be prepared for.
Yeah, because
we're
pretty organized and pretty prepared, and there were tons of things that came our way. We're like, what?
Crap.
Okay.
That one caught us.
But
again, if it's worth doing for you, then follow it through. If it's something you start and after a while you feel
it's not
lost in it, then change. There's nothing. There's no guide that says what you start doing is where you have to end.
Yeah.
What you start doing might open up a different possibility. So instead of it being another country, it might be a different city in the States.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to end where you expect it to. It did for us. We are very pleased it did. But again, it didn't come without its own challenges.
And I'll say too, this is not a channel trying to convince you to move abroad.
No.
It's really about giving you our experience and our ups and downs and the good, the bad, the ugly about our experience so that you can decide if it's something that it's actually for you. And for some people, you will decide that it's not for you.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that people understand it's not about us trying to sell you on moving here. I'm not even trying to sell you on moving to Portugal, but I do want to share what our experience has been as an American and a Brit moving to Portugal from the United States. And all that comes with that. And you will often hear me talking about it from an emotional lens, and you will hear him talking about it from a black and white, practical,
So
here are the steps lens. That is who we are. And so I think it's a good pairing to share both lenses of the experience with you guys on that. So we hope you've enjoyed episode 2.
Yeah. Hopefully it didn't go too far off tangents.
It's okay. We like storytelling. Hopefully they'll like it too.
I think
We got tons of stories to tell.
Oh hell yeah. Some maybe not, but I don't know. I just think that having an opportunity to share why we did what we did is so important, and trying to find, if you're watching this, trying to find people that resonate with your fears and feelings. It's something that is so valuable, and I think that's definitely one of the desires that we
want to build a community.
We want to build a community. We want to build value. We want to offer value in what we say and what we can provide and anything like that, because it is overwhelming.
Yeah, but worth it again.
Yeah,
worth it for us. I will say this, so this is a good lead-in. Thank you, babe. If you guys will head over, if you guys will head over to Instagram, let us know. Send us a message. I would love to know what you want to hear more about on the podcast. We have some plans, but I want to make sure we're catering it to what it is that you are actually interested in.
Yeah, and if we're talking about offering value, value comes from
give us ideas. Send us a DM. I would love that. If you want some one-on-one consultation with us, you can find that on Instagram in our bio too. But other than that, I guess we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Have fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Listen up, future expats. For more content about our move, the visa process, Portuguese culture and destinations, and tons of support resources for your own decisions and potential move abroad, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Portugal Junkies.
Stay in touch and help us reach more people by subscribing here and following us there.
Cheers, y'all!